Hi friends, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Well, hello everybody. You know what I haven't done a video on in a while? Some fantasy romance. So I thought this would be a good time to share some of my favorite underrated fantasy romances. Some are ones that I've talked about quite frequently, but I still wish would catch bigger fire in other places. And some are just kind of a blast from the past that I wanted to bring back up and bring to your attention. Because you know what? That's fun. That's fun when we can give stuff a second life and get excited about things that maybe didn't get their time in the sun like they should have had. So let's go ahead and go through this. Although I am going to start off with one that is a new release because I want more people to read it so that the author keeps writing it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So this first one is Castles of Nevers and Nightmare by Lana P. And, you know, in previous fantasy recs, I've talked about the Fae Guardian series, and this is a spin-off of that. It actually is, I mean, kind of like a next generation one of it almost, because the heroine in this one, her name is Willow, and she is the daughter of a Fae Guardian from the main series. And this is actually a why choose between her and the Six, aka the Hive, aka the Slua, who were Fae Guardians kind of in the original series, and then something happened and they're not anymore, but they know that Willow is their fated mate. And so they go about some steps that happen in the Fae Guardian series that lead her to have to go through some crazy things. I know I'm being super vague because I don't want to spoil it. But the point we're at right now is they have actually been cursed, and most of them don't remember that she's their fated mate. But she hates them for things that they did to her, causing her to have to go through those things. And so she has made it her goal that she wants to kill them. And, you know, she's actually their fated queen. So it's very interesting. One of the Slua actually does remember her, and he's going to do whatever he can to, you know, take care of his brothers. They're not brothers, but we're calling that the rest of the Hive, as well as get her there because she is their mate. So she ends up getting drawn into this kind of competition where she is backed by the House of Shadow, which is the Hive's house, as well as she's now living in a castle with them. And, you know, in the beginning, of course, she's trying to find their weaknesses so she can bring them down as well. But very quickly, she starts realizing that things aren't what she thought they were, and that maybe they do care about her more than she thinks, except only that one, because only one of them remembers her. So I probably did a horrible job explaining this, but seriously, this book had so many twists and turns. It blew my freaking mind. And the cliffhanger on this, oh my God, it was so good. And if you haven't read the Fae Guardian books, you'll be fine. It explains what you need to know. But if you have read the Fae Guardians, I think it'll be even better. It'll be so good. Now, y'all know I'm not usually a reverse harem or a why choose type of gal, but something about how they're the Hive, they share one consciousness, they're six beings separate and together, that it kind of makes sense in a sense. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one plays out, even though we have to wait a little bit for the next one. And then I have a fanfic to share with you that I thought would be fun, and this one is actually an Omegaverse, and it's called Cherry Mint by Dirty Mudblood. And I've read a few Omegaverse now that have been fan fictions, and they've been right up my alley, y'all. There's no other way to say it. But this one is like a few of them are, where Hermione doesn't know that she's an Omega, and when she goes back to Hogwarts, she starts going through her first heat, and now all the alphas at Hogwarts are coming for her, and so she ends up pairing up with Malfoy, who will see her through her heats, but then also not pressure her to be mates, except it becomes clear that they are liking each other for more than just easing each other's urges, as it were, but, you know, they don't know that the other one sees them as more than just easing their urges, right? So you get in this, like, does he like me, or is it just my heat type of situation, right? But it's so hot, but also has really sweet moments too. And I really have just loved, like I said, the Omegaverse that are, like, fan fiction so far, because so far I've read ones too that are MF, and a lot of Omegaverse that I've read and not liked so much hasn't been MF. It's been like reverse harem, and I don't love that. But the MFs that I've read, I've liked a lot, because it's basically like Fated Mate, but hornier. So I'm here for it. And then we have the series that, I mean, it does get a good amount of attention, but I just want more people to read past the first book, and that is the Dustwalker Bride series. I know that this first book has a lot of ratings on Goodreads. This one did catch a little bit on TikTok, so it did get a lot of attention, but I really love more books in the series as well as this. But the general setup of the Dustwalkers is they are these kind of creepy looking beings that can eat human souls and they live in this kind of like dangerous land, but they also have these fated brides, and if they can find their fated bride, they can find more like level of control over their urges, and they actually can, you know, kind of have a happily ever after that way. So there's a lot more going on in the land than I can explain in like a quick like blurb of this, but I just love these. There are audiobooks for most of the whole series. I'm actually reading book 6 right now, which is actually an Dustwalker story, and it's so cute. Like, it's so cute. I love them so much. But like, a lot of the Dustwalkers are just adorable. They have so many different levels of like intelligences, because the way that the Dustwalkers gain intelligence is by eating more humans. And so the smarter one of them is, you'll know the more like human they have ingested, but they don't want to keep doing that. So it's like they'll get to a certain level of intelligence and then realize that they carry a lot of guilt from like eating more and more, you know. Anyway, it's a tough life, man. It's tough. So I enjoy the like moral complexity of that, and also watching how they're able to win over a bride to them when they look like this. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I'm loving this series. I highly recommend. Okay, then I thought I would share this duology because I've had a few people recommending it to me lately. It has showed up in my book rec form, as well as people were putting it on my videos, and I'm like, bitch, I read these books before they were both out. Like, I read them a long time ago, but that's okay. That's why I'm bringing them back up again, because I don't expect everyone to know my whole backlist. I've read thousands and thousands of romances at this point, but I thought I would bring this back around so people know that I've read it and that I love it. So we have A King So Cold by Ella Fields, and the second one is the Stolen Prince or something. What was the second one called? Now I don't even remember what the second one was. But yeah, this is about like, it's so hard to set this up. So we start with this man. He's like about to get married, and hold on, actually, yes. So she's actually married to a husband that doesn't live near her, and she discovers that her lying, cheating, traitorous husband is about to marry someone else. So she shows up to nip that in the bud, to stop him from marrying someone else. And it turns out that he doesn't remember her. He doesn't know who she is or who this woman is claiming to be his wife. So she throws him in a dungeon and then starts questioning him and saying, did you really forget what you did to me? I promised you would never live peacefully, and you thought you could just go marry someone else and have it like work out? No, that's not happening. And so we start getting these flashbacks to how she once was in love with this man and what happened that led them astray. This also has fae. This has magicalness in here. So it's a very cruel princess, and her husband tried to destroy her. So that's like what's going on here. Now, there is also another character in here that I won't spoil, who has something to do with the princess as well. So I don't want to spoil it, but this duet threw me for a loop. Okay, it took me places that I did not expect it to. And also, like, this cover is just so pretty. So yeah, There's magic, there's amnesia, there's fated mates, there's just a whole bunch of good stuff in here. You'll have to check this out. Okay, and then we have the one, like I said, I used to talk about constantly, but I've taken a little break, and I think we need to talk about it again, because book 3 is supposed to be coming soon, a couple months maybe. So we, of course, have Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Wisecup, which is an audiobook available for if you need it, because this is pretty hefty. But this was Jess Wisecup's debut book, and it is fantastic. I love it so much. So books 1 and 2 are out in the series, and book 3 is coming soon. So this is about a woman named Emmeline, who her daughter and her husband get kidnapped in the beginning of this book. Now, she doesn't really care about her husband, but she does care about her beautiful teenage daughter who's been stolen from her. And so what does she have to do? She goes to the only person she knows can help her, actually her ex-love from when they were kids, Prince Rain. And she throws herself upon his mercy, asking him to help her find her daughter. And he's like, girl, you don't have to beg me. I will help you no matter what. So he and his sister and one of his, like, I can't remember if he's a guard or a friend or whatever, they head out to help her get her daughter back. And along the way, we start finding out more information. And we also find out what broke these two apart, why she was married to someone else, and what happened to her sister, who she actually had a twin sister, and what actually happened, and why do Rain and Emma have this animosity between them, but yet he's willing to drop everything to help her get her daughter back. Also, it's a plus-size heroine. Also, it's a heroine in her 30s. It's fantastic. Okay, then we have, oh my gosh, here was the second one. It's a Stray Prince. My stacks got all mixed up. This is the duet right here. Sorry. My stack of books is all over the place. All right, then we have a series that I constantly am like, why haven't more people read this? But maybe they will eventually, because this author's so great. So this is the Vampire Blood series by Juliet Cross. There are actually audiobooks for all of these ones as well. And this is like a fairy tale retelling series with vampires and other magical beings in it. So this first one is a Cinderella retelling, and it begins with our heroine going to a ball to kill a vampire prince. But it doesn't work out quite like she wants, and now she's in his grasp. And he's fascinated by this woman who had the balls to try to kill him, not only a prince, but a vampire at the same time. Now, the vampires are in control of this land, and things haven't been great for the humans. Vampires misuse their power quite a bit, and she's a part of this resistance who wants to take down the vampire leaders. So, this man she tried to kill, who's now fascinated by her, she is meant to be his downfall. And he's like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to let you do that, but I'm super attracted to you and I would like to drink your blood. So I'm coming for you, you know? You know? So there's the Black Lily, and then there is the Red Lily, and that one is a Red Riding Hood retelling. And then number 3 is the Green Lily. Is that the one? I think so. And that one is... No, it's the White Lily next, because that one is Snow White, and she takes care of 7 orphans who've been orphaned by the war. And then there is the Green Lily, and that one is Rapunzel. So all of those are retellings. They get spicier as they go, but they do all still have some, because it is Juliet, but they do get spicier as they go. And there's some blood play happening. There's some blood sucking that happens. And I just think it was so well done. And again, it's a series that is like so underrated by Juliet. And it was just fantastic. So if you've loved some of her other stories, definitely check it out. It's also a bit like darker. In fact, Juliet has mostly written darker fantasy romance or paranormal romance. It's really only the Stay a Spell that's been lighter, so definitely check it out. I do also have a deep dive on Juliet if you want to watch and you want to know more about all of her backlist that she's written. That would be a good place to go for sure. Okay, then we have a series that I know I haven't talked about in a long time, so it might be a little bit vague how I'm able to talk about it, but this is a fascinating series. So we have, what's the name of the series also too? Okay, The Prophecy of the Sisters. So this is the Prophecy of the Sisters series. There's actually 4 books. I actually don't own the 4th one. So this one is the first one, and it's called Bride of the Traitor. So these all start actually in modern times. And there are these 4 sisters, as it says, and one at a time, they actually get drawn into this other world. It's not necessarily time travel, though it kind of will feel like time travel. It's more like world travel. So in this one, there's Sibylla and Elias, and Elias is this, like, he's a king, but he's considered a traitor. And Sibylla, she is just living her life in Portland, Oregon, and she wakes up in a dark dungeon, and she believes that she's someone who's cosplaying, like, as this, but really she comes to discover that she's been kidnapped from her bed and, like, brought to this world. So yeah, she has no idea why she's there or what the fuck is going on, but she has to play along if she wants to live and, you know, find out what's going on. Now, as this series goes, there of course is like a prophecy in the beginning about like each of them. And so it's the 4 sisters. So this, I'll read it to you because this sets up the whole thing. So it says, 4 sisters. 4 sisters will be born. They are not of this world. 4 sisters who are born of the same mother and father, yet do not share the same appearance. They are the only ones of their kind in the entire universe, across our world and all others. 4 sisters will marry and love the fiercest warriors from all 4 corners of the world. Once all 4 relationships are consummated, the events foretold in the prophecy will be set in motion, becoming unstoppable. If the 4 sisters come together, once their fate has been sealed, they will absorb all the powers this world holds. 4 sisters will be the most powerful creatures in this world. It is not known if this will be used for good or evil. The future is uncertain and unknown. If these sisters gather together in our world, only the fates know what the final outcome will be. So that's Sibylla. Then there is Bride of the Sea, and this one is like a pirate king, basically. And then there is Bride of the Frontier, and this one is literally a frontier world. So we get like a cowboy head of the area. Like, I can't remember if he's like a sheriff. But yeah, he's king of the frontier. And then the last one is Bride of the Emperor, I believe is the last one that I don't own. But yeah, so there's these 4 sisters, and slowly, one by one, they get drawn to their different kings that they're supposed to marry. And then once it's consummated, they got to figure out how to save the world. So each of these has a really like hot love story too. There's also them trying to like convince the men that like this isn't a trick, like they didn't even ask to be there or any of that. But yeah, these are all really sexy. Some of them have more dubcon than others do, because the women, like, they can't always like understand them is kind of interesting thing that happens. So yeah, that's really interesting for sure. But they were all super hot, and I love this series. So definitely a more unique one for sure. Then there's one, this one's really a throwback, okay? I actually had to look it up to make sure that I wrote the right name down, but I remember loving this series. So it does have some weird covers, I'm warning you, okay? But I love this. So this book is called Taken by the Huntsman by Minstrel Dawn, okay? And again, there's 3 of these, and each one is, I mean, it's also a little bit like these, the Prophecy of the Sisters, but not quite. These women are from like modern world, and they get drawn into the Fae realm to whoever their fated mates are, because they each have a fated mate in these different kingdoms. And the first one, I believe the first one, the heroine is getting away from an abusive relationship. That's either this one or the second one. I'm sorry if I'm wrong which one. But either way, they get drawn into this Fae world. They find their fated mate there. And these are each like really kinky stories too. And they have like magical kinds of kink there, which is really hot. But I remember one of them being like the king, the Fae king of this one realm is a switch. And so he lets her practice the different things on him first because he really likes them. I remember just loving that so much. But then by finding their fated mate, it kind of helps restore power and health to the land and everything. So I really like these. Again, the covers are strange. And this author, which I'm positive has to be a pseudonym for someone. These are like the only books that they've written. They've written like these 4 and then like one other one, but I highly recommend. Okay, and then the last one, which I'm just shocked hasn't gotten more attention than it has, like really makes me sad that it doesn't, is actually Anastasia by Sophie Lark. Okay, this is one of my favorite books of 2022. It was so good. It made me so happy. This was the first one that was actually like fully annotated by Lena. It has all these. If you read the ebook, you know, either read it on your phone or read it in a tablet, because all of these are full color illustrations. Like they all will look like this. So this is kind of a historical reimagining, but also with a lot of magic. There's paranormal elements, there's magic elements. And so it does in some aspects follow like real life events to a certain degree, of course, but then things get magical, and we do get a happily ever after for Anastasia and her love, which in this one, his name is Damien. So she's the 4th daughter born to the emperor, and she's the only one in her family that doesn't have a magical gift in the beginning. And there's this boy that gets taken as like insurance against the Cossacks, which are the rebels against them. And so Damon is taken to be raised by the Romanovs, to be raised within the palace as, again, as like insurance, as well as, you know, he's learning about them and everything. And so they grow up around each other, this, you know, son of a Cossack and the son or the daughter of the Tsar. And so first they're enemies, but then they become friends, and then they become more. But as they grow up, you know, there is war happening and there's danger all around them. And, you know, they have to make decisions about whose side they're on and what that really means. And then also enter, of course, Rasputin, who gets brought in to help take care of her younger brother, Alexei. And there's something very strange and different about him. He's not quite human, or human at all, really. And he has some very devious aims towards the Romanovs. So, again, this definitely takes, you know, Sophie did so much real research to fit in this. It just felt so magical. However, I do suggest, I'm saying this, like, if you love historical fiction, but you also love like fantasy romance, this is where I think it meets, because again, she did so much research for this story. There's so much historical context mixed in it. So I think that people who aren't expecting that part of it have gotten a little bored with it, but she does such a good job building the world and setting the stakes and everything, so that when everything really gets rolling, you know what's at stake, what we stand to lose. And you also know maybe how it really turns out, and you hope for a different outcome with it. So there's an audiobook for this one now too, so if this does intimidate you, know that. Now also know though, like, it is a long book, but there also are like a lot of pictures in it. So that's part of the reason why it's like so big. Like, oh, here's one of the full page ones. Like, there's so many beautiful, there's Rasputin there. So the fact that this book didn't get more attention is just like devastating to me, because Sophie did have plans for more books that like connected to this one. Like, she had a paranormal series planned, and it just kind of all got scrapped because this book didn't get the attention that it deserves. So here's me trying to do my best. Okay, if you like thick fantasies, this one's it, you guys. This was so good. It was so powerful. There's some sentient animals involved. It's really great. Gotta love it. And yeah, it's fantastic. So there you go. Those are some underrated fantasy romance and some romance fantasy ones I haven't talked about in a while. Let me know some of your favorites. I do have some other fantasy romance recommendations you can watch if you need more. And we'll see you in the next one, friends. Bye.